We are Asheboro Undecided. It's a podcast for a city that doesn't quite know itself yet. And you're very familiar with Asheboro, so and you're making leaps and bounds in different areas. So I want to bring you on. We appreciate you. We got SHAD over here. Marshall in the back is going to come soon, and we got Brandon behind the camera. So welcome.
Thank you.
To downtown Asheboro.
It has definitely not changed since the last time I was in Asheboro.
When was the last time?
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've actually been in Asheboro, and I used to live in Asheboro. It used to be the place that we hung out, because I was right there on the border of Randolph and Guilford, right there at Riders in the Country.
Yeah.
On the county line next to Frank and Larry's. And so, I had friends in Randleman, and then so you didn't hang out in Randleman, you came to Asheboro.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing but trouble, so.
Yeah.
You were here.
You listening back there, Kimberly?
I have some memories of Riders, girl.
I can honestly say I have never been to Riders.
Me either. I haven't been.
I've been
there.
by the building, but that was it.
Every time I drive by Bill's Pizza Pub, it just sounds like I want to get a pizza there, but I don't want to walk in and talk to anybody. I don't want.
Is Riders still a thing?
It's something else.
No,
now.
it's Kamikazes now, and they're doing drag shows once a month.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Might
Here
have
we go.
to get out there and
Here
rap.
Yeah, I would think. I was not thinking. I was just. They did one here at Four Saints again this past weekend.
They did.
How did that go?
So it was a completely sold out show.
Good.
I wasn't here, but my good friend Brenda, the drag queen.
Right.
I kind of double as her dresser, and I hope she considers me to be a friend, because I consider her to be a friend. And it was wonderful. And I asked Brenda about it. We hung out Saturday, we hung out Friday, and she was like, "It's needed." People were eating it up.
Yeah.
Was she at the prior one?
Mm-hmm.
They did?
Yeah.
Because I had kind of found out about that. I guess it was last minute because the tickets were already sold out. I know that one's sold out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because as soon as I seen that, I hit up a couple of friends. I was like, "Hey, guess what's coming?" And then I was like, "Oh wait, it's sold out." And I was like, "I hope they do another one." And then they do another one, and I'm out of town. But I'm so glad that's going on, especially with recent events and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's going to be a reoccurring thing. But when Brenda is, I call a queen of the people. Brenda is not. She's 7 feet tall. She's not scared of anything, honestly, and just she's doing shows in Fayetteville. She's doing shows in Asheboro. She's doing shows in rural towns without question, because it's needed. That visibility is so needed. But she's not afraid to do that. But I cannot help but think about the recent situations that have been happening right here in North Carolina.
We were talking in depth about the Moore County. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live down that way.
Yeah, just what's going through people's mind. We actually last week had a Christian rapper in here, and he was able to open up on his outlook on it, and was like, "Listen, you motherfuckers, this is nothing of God's work. Why are you doing this?" So you've got somebody that practices what these people are saying that they're practicing and preaching and all this, that says this is fucking the worst kind of person to be. And to actually go to a festival and try to picket it and be there, like Marshall said it, that's the opposite effect as you're gonna have. Thankfully, the first time here in Asheboro, it was 4 people across the street near a trash can. A couple, people that just, like we were talking about, they had the same values that they've always had for all their life, values, quote unquote, and that was it. And I don't think I think it went off without a hitch this time. 2 times in a row. Yeah. And it seems to be, going in the right direction.
Yeah, I have to say, being in Florida during when this was going down, hearing about it, and being I was actually embarrassed. How odd is it that I'm in Florida embarrassed about something that's going back in North Carolina? And I grew up in Florida too, so I know some of the. I'm like, gosh, I'm sitting there reading on Reddit. Oh man, it's on Reddit now. Dang it! But yeah.
Well, actually, I think it's a good thing, because it'll bring a lot of attention to that shitty movement.
But then
it's
also,
not a good thing. But
I haven't, not to jump around subjects, but from what I read, they ended up having the event, came in,
Yeah.
people did like cell phones, flashlights for the lighting, and it went great.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing out of all that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we can make things happen. See,
Yeah.
the thing about Moore County and the thing about the terrible tragedy that happened in Colorado, and even if we reflect back into like the Pulse
Right.
in Orlando, Florida,
Yeah.
the Pulse massacre. So this isn't new to us.
True.
This isn't new to our history. I mean, in North Carolina, our Stonewall was a man died in a river in Durham, a gay man who was assaulted, died in a river in Durham. This isn't new stuff
No.
for us. It's just now it's on TV. Now it's on media. I mean, the average lifespan of a trans black woman is 30 years old. It's not new violence. It's just new to the general public.
Right.
I mean, not trying to push back, but I'd almost feel like it's not new to the general public. It's just getting out to where they can't hide it anymore.
Mhm. I mean, I think that's an interesting perspective.
I mean-
they're no longer being able to like hide it behind that
Yeah.
curtain.
And it's not getting swept under some other local news story and then forgotten about. I mean, everybody I'm sure has their own opinions on what social media has become and the negatives and whatnot. But I mean, one of the positive, I would say, like I said, I'm sitting, 9-10 hours away from where this happened, from my own home state, what I consider my home state. And I'm getting to know about what's really going on from people that aren't, behind a news camera or behind a editor at a newspaper. They're actually speaking what is on their mind. You're seeing, the emotion, the raw emotion that you're going to get. And that, to me, that speaks more than any media outlet can give you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think that that's also another component to it. When we read about history, right? When we absorb history content, up until maybe I would say argue about 5-10 years ago, the history is told by the side of the winner.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So they can no longer hide behind the side of the winner if we're sitting here absorbing it immediately. So there's no more winners only story.
Right. Or the narrative that this person has the power enough
Mhm.
to show the general public, which is, that is another good side of social media.
Mhm.
There are plenty of double-edged swords with it, but that's the good thing about it is because, that chick, she posted, I know what happened,
Yeah.
and if that wouldn't have been up there, then, it would have been another person that was let off free. I mean, she's still free, but
It would have been edited down to
Yeah.
a little snippet to try to get viewers to stay up 10 minutes longer to hear an over-edited to whatever they want, whatever, what is the word I'm looking for, narrative they want you to soundbite to believe.
like they're doing with Kanye right now. They're just giving you this little thing that he says over 3 hours of a conversation. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but he's got 3 hours of conversation. He decided to put the most exuberant one out of that. And that's where we were left at. But now you got somebody's status, and she chooses to keep it on there and be bigoted enough to say, this is what I still believe in. But anyway, we'll move past Moore County. We'll move past that shit. It was good to see somebody else's, where you would assume that he would be on that side,
Mhm.
and then he sit there and he was like, "This is totally wrong." And to see somebody that might make that difference in the community that might be spiritual.
Mhm.
So that was good to hear that. There's people like that.
Well, there's a lot of people like that, and
Yeah.
I don't discredit that, but Ren and I talked about it's almost like it's turning into Christianism, it's becoming a rhetoric that preaches hate and terrorism, and it's very othering, but true Christians don't really feel that way.
Right.
This Christianism is just being the what's the word? The shield that you're standing behind just to, produce hate.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm. And then, it doesn't help when the church is encouraging their flock, really, like leading their flock into, like, don't educate yourself. We must fear it. We must stay ignorant because we fear it. We cannot get to know it. That kind of thing. So.
Right. So this segue into, you've got to be listening and hearing what that demographic is saying about, like, the current movement for Disney and Marvel and things like that. You're hearing all the backlash that demographic is giving.
So, honestly, I'm a really bad gay when it comes to, like, paying attention to that kind of backlash. I'm happy to hear about it, but but in the same sense, like, that is not something that I put my energy to. I used to have to stay so caught up because of my position with alternative resources of the Triad, and it was counterproductive to progress just to absorb that amount of hate and then let it take away from the energy that needed to be put into what I'm pushing forward as a leader and, for my team. So I have chosen to actively not pay attention to things that are, like, that's not in my control. I can't.
Right.
I can contribute to these communities and not terribly worried about the big media.
I totally understand that. I guess what I was meaning was beating around the bush. How is it to see in a film or a movie more acceptance, especially towards when Disney has this long list. Every time you see a Disney movie, you're seeing more acceptance and inclusion in it. That's really what I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
you're talking about diversity in media.
It's like, just for instance, Strange World just came out. I took my son to see it, and it was a kid, like, I think he might have been 15 years old, and he has a crush on another dude. Of course, people go crazy about it, but my son's there watching inclusion. Mm-hmm. He's not being told one way or the other. He's just seeing inclusion, and that's what I see, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people don't see that, and that's what's really being I don't want to say pushed in these movies. It's not being pushed; it's being included in now. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like the main storyline, right?
Not at all.
See, that's what that's what I love to hear. Like, I am tired of being the storyline of all of the struggles that are just a fraction of who I am. But I love, like, Letterkenny does a really good job of this, of, like, just letting gay people exist as secondary characters, because that's what we are. Like, we're not something to be stared at or highlighted. We're not we've done, we could go down the road of was it detrimental to our own progress forward by making movies that solely focused on us being gay. Right. So did we do ourselves some kind of injustice in that way?
I see.
Because we wanted people to stop highlighting us and stop, like, being against us. But I love the fact that, like, we're becoming secondary characters, an afterthought. I'm ready to, like, not have to live my life so out loud.
Right. This is what I think they're doing a great job with that. They're doing it in the comic books too, where it's it's I don't want to say it's pushed to the side, but it's there. It's not the focal point of the whole event. Mm-hmm. It's not the focal point of this person or the whole movie. But what throws it off is when you've got those people that come out there and say that I don't want to watch this because this is pushing this agenda, and it's not even pushing the agenda. It's just saying this. This is this one minor detail, maybe 3 or 4 minutes for the whole 90-minute film, and people going off the deep end with it, and it's just it's refreshing to see that. And I hate that people get pushed away on both sides from even watching it because you don't want to be all in the limelight, and then they don't want it at all. So now this film is doing shitty in the box office because there's both sides hearing not the movie. They're just hearing these sound bites. Mm-hmm. and hopefully they'll jump out of it. Willow's another good example. They redid Willow, and they've got just the relationship between the main character is that, but it's not that.
Right.
So
The
they're
storyline isn't about that.
They're doing it the right way, I think. I'm a big
As much
fan.
as I hate the word, I like it when it's normalized.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
like, I know you're
It's
saying
not like highlighted. It's not
Yeah,
like ta-da!
yeah,
But
yeah.
here's the
Yeah.
but here's the thing: the people who are so against it, they're the ones who brought attention to it. And guess who's in the limelight again?
Yeah.
You know, like all media.
You
have to see us again.
You're right. You're right. So we'll move to the education part of your life.
Okay.
So we'll go back and forth, bounce around here and
Sure.
there. So the education part in your life, I know the biggest thing is I'm a previous teacher. 7 years of my life I spent teaching. Most of it was in another country, but I want to know your summary of the last 10 years and how much it's evolved.
Well, so I have two different perspectives for you. I have corporate perspective, and
Okay.
then I have higher education perspective.
Okay.
I was in corporate for 11 years, and in those 11 years, out of those 11 years, 6 of those I was a learning and development manager.
Okay.
So I taught adults. Here recently, I quit my job, my nice, cushy corporate job, because I was tired of selling my soul to the problem, and enrolled back at UNCG in grad school for the Master's in Education for Instructional Technology, which is basically instructional. We design instruction. We can do it hybrid, online, async, synchronous. We learn how to do all of those like fun little videos where you do the voiceovers and stuff like that. So I have two different types of perspective. But to answer to overall answer your question about the biggest change that I've seen in the last 10 years is the importance of culturally relevant pedagogy, and how it started out very surface level, and now we're really getting into the point, it's not the point to make sure that all of your people on your cartoon that teaches you about the HR policies are all different colors and of all different backgrounds. That's surface level. You're not bringing in culturally relevant information. You're not getting to know your learner landscape and understanding your audience. So that's really the biggest shift that I have seen in education. Really understanding what motivates your students, what beyond just the classroom, but in their entire environment.
And that's been a push in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
You're saying it, but I didn't know if it actually applied.
Yeah, no, it's a push in the, it's
Yeah.
definitely a push in the right direction. So, interestingly enough, culturally relevant pedagogy was actually by Gloria Ladson-Billings. In 1995, she released her first academic journal, and it's based on 3 pillars, right? And it's basically getting to know your students, understanding their environment that they live in, not just the one that's in the room, and then adjusting your instruction to them, making it more relevant to them. And the push was Black and brown students were only learning or seeing white history,
Mm-hmm.
white math,
Mm-hmm.
white psychology, and it wasn't a reflection of who they were. Black children, why would you? So I love explaining Gloria's overall thing is The Great Gatsby. If you have Black students, they were not living the same kind of life as The Great Gatsby. So how is that relevant?
Exactly.
And so she argues that you really can't teach or instruct or support your learners if you are missing that piece of their culture. And it goes beyond just adding a multitude of different backgrounds on your cartoon. It goes to just really understanding their accessibility and who they are and what they know. And we really started seeing the death of Black culture in education, during integration, because they automatically assumed the white schools were better. the white educators were better.
Right. That's heavy. All that's heavy. No, it's good. This
so
is what
sorry.
we
No,
I'm
don't.
so sorry.
Do not apologize. Yeah.
So
I could get heavy.
no, this is what we need. It was intentional to have Kimberly here and you at the same night, so we could just dive in and get this, because this is a pivotal moment in our podcast. We need this, because before it was just artists and people that we're talking to pitter patter, and we're just talking about their stuff. But we got to start getting to the meat and potatoes of society.
Sure.
So I've been that term. I've heard the term. I didn't know it was a book. I didn't know it was a publication.
Mm-hmm.
So is this something you found out on your own, or is this something that has been given to you as part of like a retreat or a supplement to your profession?
So actually, this gift of knowledge has been given to me by my professors that I had. So this is my first semester back in grad school.
Okay.
Did 3 classes, graduated with, finished with straight A's.
Cheers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But I have instructors. I'm fortunate to have professors who are trained instructors. I'll explain that a little bit in just a minute. Who practice what they preach. So we learned about the capital T theories, but then was like, okay, which are all, old white men.
Yeah.
And then, my professors were like, all right, here are the old white men. Here are the now diverse academics who have done work underneath these three learning theories, these 3 major learning theories. So I was very fortunate to have. It's not I still have them. Professionals that are academic professionals, instructors who are practicing culturally relevant pedagogy and really truly believe in it.
That's good. So this is applicable to kindergarten through grad school.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond, I would say.
Yeah, and beyond.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's short. Culturally relevant pedagogy is called CRP. And CRP has shown successes preschool all the way to grad school. Like this is a foundational belief system, not belief system, but learning strategy that has 3 pillars, and then you just it informs your instruction. So you no longer go in there like, I'm the teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and I know what's best, and this is what we're going to be talking about today, and this is how I'm going to do it. Right?
Which never should have been from the beginning that way.
But that's how it operates, right? So that we no longer do that. Like your students, just like this, just like a podcast, just like a film, just like a speech, you have to know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Classrooms are no different. Being a teacher is no different from being an amazing public speaker that knows their audience and knows how to reach them. So it's the shift in putting your students first.
Right. This is a brilliant, not even a strategy. This is a brilliant way to bring it together, because I know as a teacher they would always give us, the background
Mm-hmm.
on the students that were like hard at learning,
Mm-hmm.
or they have disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Why not do like you just said? These are the people from this background. This is what they are. This is what their family is living in. I mean, not violating any privacy,
Right.
but just like giving them like this is how they live. This is how they live. This is how they live, and then adapting your game plan, but you're teaching.
Yeah, no,
to that.
it's literally adapting your game plan. It's just
Yeah.
like adapting. You're in the public eye. How many times have you walked out on the stage and been like, all right, so the song that we were going to sing,
Right.
the second song I don't think is going to really do it with this crowd, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to switch it up. There's no difference in education or in instruction and teaching. Right. So and it can be done really quickly. So it sounds like a lot, but I'm actually working on this for my academic study. We all have schemas, so we all have these building blocks that create our knowledge and what we know. At the beginning of every class, you can do something like a word association about the topic. right? So it's kind of like a pre and post knowledge test, but it's not. It's a little bit more fun. You can do it on a cloud bubble, Kahoot or whatever, and that can essentially inform your instruction. So for example, so your instruction is about food. Like you're going to teach them how to cook, how to convert measurements through food, right? So you ask them, okay, what are the words that come up in your brain about food? And so the cloud bubble starts populating, and you're starting to see themes. We see a lot of pizza. We see a lot of chicken nuggets. We see a lot of macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
All right, so now the lesson plan is going to be informed by pizza, nuggets, and macaroni and cheese, right? So it can be as simple as that. Like, you don't have to know every single detail of your students, but you have to know what they're paying attention to.
Right.
And their life controls what they pay attention to.
Right.
I'm kind of curious, like, with that kind of thought, is there ever an attempt to, like just for the example you just give, pizza, chicken nuggets, macaroni, that's kind of like the big picture item. Is there ever any attempt to introduce other things to where maybe that's not the overall, or do you just play completely off of what they're giving you?
So can you expand on that a little bit? Like, do you introduce them into new concepts? Like expand them to sushi from that? Or is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
Like, using that same analogy, do I then try to introduce sushi? Yeah. You can't. I'm trying to think of a better metaphor, because we're using pizza. In this one, we would use like pizza, nuggets, and macaroni and cheese to form a learning about cooking, right? So the learning objective would have been cooking, and so then you knew how to answer to inform your pizza. But if you wanted to introduce something like as far as history goes, what do you know about the Japanese internment camps? Allow them to fill out the word, we can get real heavy with just a word association. What do you know about the Japanese internment camps? So then because it's completely anonymous, you can't see who's putting stuff in. You can actually identify any implicit biases and how generalizations and society what has informed their idea of of Japanese people, whatever they know. So you're not only just getting okay, they really don't know a lot about this subject, but you can also inform are there going to be some implicit biases or generalizations that you're going to also have to tackle in this lesson.
So say you did the cooking, and could that, I'm assuming it can, but the analysis from that, and then you do the question on the Japanese internment camp, could they mesh those together, and not necessarily if it's anonymous, would it kind of blend those two together to bring a better
I actually propose in one of in one paragraph of my writing I'm a terrible writer, so I talk about it better. But I say, you could teach any topic and combine it with whatever you want. So you say your class is absolutely obsessed with, I don't know, the latest boy bop band or whatever. You could use then Backstreet Boys to teach anything about history, math. I'm a full believer. It doesn't matter the subject. As long as you're just if you're understanding what your students are paying attention to, you can make it relative. Right. Teaching them about iambic pentameter by asking them to write a rap song.
Yeah.
If that's what they're paying attention to,
that's
what then lean into it.
Yeah. And damn it, they're going to learn that pentameter. They're going to. They will, if that's what they're leaning into, like you're saying. And
it can be reversed, right? So you can say, all right, here's this poem, right? I want you to put your own spin on it and perform it in class. If that's what they're wanting to do, it's all about understanding what your students are paying attention to, and they're going to really take with them in their pocket, like, wow, I did, Robert Frost. I rapped Robert Frost to a beat that my boy dropped, in class in seventh grade. You'll like
Always,
remember that.
I remember doing like plagiarizing a Mobb Deep song for some poetry thing in the 7th or 8th grade, and finally coming clean, saying, "Hey, this wasn't my work." And then the teacher was like, "I've never heard a rap song. Let me listen to this." That has nothing to do with what you're saying.
No, but you remember that
it does
moment.
in a way.
I remember, like then she was like, "Oh, you heard Shaquille O'Neal's album?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." She kind of went to, at least listen to somebody's record.
Right.
And that's what I was going to say. It does, because I remember, like, freshman year, Miss Bridges, like, we had...
It wasn't Miss Bridges' class.
Yeah.
It was.
She actually, like, we were doing the poetry unit, and she was like, "What are you guys listening to? What's, what bands, what music?" And we would all, hesitate. "Oh, all right, well, what's their lyrics? Let's pull out their lyrics. Let's read their lyrics and see how it relates to the poetry we're learning," and stuff like that. And then I also remember, kind of on the flip side, another English teacher I won't name, but, we were also being forced to prep for the writing test that was at the end of the year, so that's all we focused on. And so I just got tired of writing, because it was just, they wanted the same thing. So one day I just wrote this asinine story that I knew was going to upset her, or that was the goal. And hearing you talk about it, I mean, I would have definitely had a better understanding if she had leaned into it instead of punishing me for it. I ended up that was the only time I got in-school suspension. But it was
probably a great piece.
I don't know.
Oh, I mean, like, depending on what you were trying to, aim for. Like, if it was just, like, to be able to tell a story, it had an introduction, it had a body, it had a conclusion.
What pissed her off is it had whips and chains in it. That's what I remember.
But if it met the learning objectives,
yeah.
I mean, that's really the whole, like, foundation. Like,
right.
If it met what I was trying to teach you,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah.
Well,
Like-
little caveat to that story. So at the end of the year, we had to do, was required to take the writing test. She specifically called me into her class had me stay after or something like that, and she was like, "I just want you to know we got the scores back from the writing test, and you and one other person scored like it was on a 4-point system. You were the only 2 people to get a 4.0. And I could tell she was just like, "I can't believe he did this." Like, she did not think. And I was like, I paid attention. I ran the formula through and learned how to replicate it. But I would have much rather had somebody like a Miss Bridges, that was like leaning into, "Hey, what are you guys into?" I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing with, going back and looking at your school and your teachers, is like, you always remember the ones that didn't feel they were above you. Mm-hmm. They felt at your level and wanted to know about you. Mm-hmm. Or what was going on in your world. You don't remember the ones that just open to page 5, read this, and we'll have a quiz at, you don't remember those ones.
You might remember it like it was your tooth pulled.
That too.
But like it brings it back to what she said, that teacher knew all of us.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole huge amount of background in Southwest, but she
at
knew
that
us.
time.
At that time, she knew us. Some of those knew us all, and that's the key to it. Like she's saying, like knowing the background, talking to, I know Miss Bridges did talk to our parents a lot, and it wasn't like just to tell our parents, "Hey, this motherfucker's doing some shit, get his ass in order." It was more like, what do you do for a living? And it's not a nosy thing, There are some people that are nosy. Switch gears to what is your, what you're saying right now. I'm enjoying every bit of it. What is your outlook, your opinion on charter schools?
I don't think because I don't have kids.
Okay.
So like.
This is something maybe you're not know enough about.
Right. So tell me, because the definition of charter schools has definitely changed over the last couple of years.
Too, yeah.
So explain to me what is considered to be a charter school now.
I fucking don't know. I know I was that was my last time of being a teacher, was a charter school, high school teacher. I was done with it after that.
Am I kind of, not to interject, but like, is the magnet school similar to the charter school?
So okay.
I don't even, I don't even.
There's another thing, like, so, like, because there's so many different terminologies, like, there's, like, is it just avoidance of saying private school? Like, is it, like...
Well, with the charter, it's like...
Is it the progressive private school?
There's a percentage that is actually funded by the state.
Okay.
And then the other percentage is funded by who fuck knows, who really knows. So they can essentially make a lot of their own rules, you know what I'm saying? So they can decide who teaches, they can decide who goes there, they can decide their district, they can decide, they've got a lot of decisions they can make by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was there...
In curriculum and everything? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
So, well, I guess there's certain things that are definite if they want that state funding.
Yeah.
I was about to say, if they're getting state funding, there's got to be some kind of...
Yeah.
They have to have, and I can't remember what it was, but at that point, and it was 2017, and I was 6 months shy of getting the equivalent to a teaching degree.
Mm-hmm.
My experience was at that point, 6 months shy of that. They were like, no problem, come over here and teach. And I was like, that should have been my first, red flag. But I was like, okay. They were like, well, you teach here for a year, then we'll start paying for that schooling so you can get 6 months equivalent to it, so you can
So the 7-7 licensure.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. I can't. That's 5 years ago.
You've had a couple kids.
But I just remember it being a beautiful opportunity with these poor kids. Like, I just saw it. It was like everything good and everything bad at once from a public school. It was like there was a lot of good things and a lot of bad things. It was removing the bad things from public schools, but replacing them with something else bad. I just didn't. I don't want to even go into much of that because we're here to talk about you. I just wanted to. If you don't have like a personal like vendetta against charter schools at this point.
I don't have. I think education, like most of our systems, needs a complete reformation. I think it needs to be like just totaled and rebuilt. But that's society on, like, I feel like
so
there is like, let's just erase society and start over.
That's what I made a song called "Make America Again."
Mm-hmm.
It was just make it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So I wore that shirt at the last show with Marshall. And so they always Freudian slip. Somebody puts "Make America Great Again," and I'm like, this does not say "Make America Great Again." It just says "Make America Again." So in their head, they've already thought about that. Just make it again. We just need to. We had the most beautiful opportunity with the lockdown, the pandemic, to just go ahead and say, hey, let's fucking just start all over. And some people wanted to, and some people tried to.
And those old white men.
And then here we go, So that's a good segue into this. What have you seen from the lockdown era to now? I have seen personally, now you can tell me if you've seen the same thing. I've seen a lot of businesses step up during that lockdown period and be like, I am this incredible ally to the community that you represent, and I'm going to go all for it, and this is how I'm going to be. But then as soon as the lockdown is done, then they're still that way for maybe a few months, but then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're making money, we're having customers like we did before the lockdown, fuck you and your...
Well, yeah, they no longer need the dinks, the dual income, no kids demographic anymore. But,
Do you see that? Do you see it or...
I see a lot of performative allyship all the time. Like, surface level, really not putting your money where your mouth is or your mouth where your money went, like performative allyship 1,000 times. I think that, but, you know, I've worked for nonprofits who need that money. So who, you know, which is the lesser of two evils. And I hate to say that, but like money coming in for a foundation like the one that I worked for, where none of us got paid, we were all volunteer, we needed that money. Like we get 0 discounts to put on a Pride festival or to do anything for the community. We don't, so like, I still want the funding.
Yeah.
It's not bad to want funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's a partnership. But like you said, if it's performance, or is it genuine?
well, I mean, I think
And
everything right now.
And do you need it to be genuine, or you just need to, you know, what do we need to move on? You know, what?
Well, it needs to be genuine unless you're really committed to helping the community on a local level. Like, you know, you can't be giving your money to organizations that go against us and us. They just kind of they cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Does that happen
Oh,
frequently?
Yeah, I mean, I could name a couple of large corporations that do that. Politicians as well.
Yeah.
You know, but like on a local level, you know, where like local businesses say, yes, you know, like they put up their little rainbow safe sticker, I'm okay with that. If they're like, but to get that sticker as a community, we, you know, when we give someone a safe space sticker, we've educated them on what that really means. Like, it means that you've got our backs. And it's one of the reasons why, you know, when you see like Pride partners or that little small sticker that just sits in the window, when you see that, like, you know that you'll be okay in that space. That's what they're promising.
Is there a place in Asheboro that has one?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not.
That's what I was wondering, because I know Four Saints had some posters up, but it wasn't that sticker that you said that I've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they have said that or hate doesn't live here, love lives here, and other things. But I would assume that.
See, the real stickers, you actually have to complete a certain, like, true safe space stickers and like GGF's like partnership stickers. You know, like we educate that business. You know, like we as collectively the queer community has educated that business so that they can display that flag.
So what do we need to do to maybe start that here? Or is that something that you would be interested in, or just wait until that opportunity comes to you, or, you know?
I mean, so it's a lot of it is just the legwork. Who's interested in learning about what it means to be a safe space, learning how to earn the sticker of, like, you know, it's cool that you're in here, because that's what we really look for, especially when we travel. You know, like, are we seeing gay flags, then are we seeing like safe space stickers? You know, those are the things that we pay attention to, especially when we travel. We go to small towns like Asheboro and Thomasville, but then, you know, you find little nuggets that do have like, hey, it's cool, you're safe here, and it really helps kind of change the atmosphere, and you know, we kind of walk around and kind
Relax.
we kind of walk around,
like
you know, always on alert. In small towns,
I bet Lexington has a lot. Do they have a lot there?
So they're starting to get more and more and more in Lexington. But I'm a Greensboro girl.
Right.
So like Greensboro, and Winston-Salem and Durham have all of the protections that I think I sent you the stats, or the only 3 cities in North Carolina that have all of the what we identify as queer protections. So those are the only 3 cities in North Carolina. So you're not alone.
Right.
Asheboro isn't alone, and like, you know, like.
No, I'm curious, and I would like to see that go to a direction to where at least I would like to see a business owner or a business inquire about, what does this mean?
Mhm.
How can we
And it's
do
really
this,
easy
you know?
to become a safe space advocate. Safe Space has their own website, and you can then take your certification as like, hi, I am going to make sure that whoever I pass this out to is truly a safe space. And then you go in, you educate the staff, and you educate the owner, and then they're cool with it, you're cool with it, and you just slap the sticker on, and it's the quickest way to be like, all right, we're cool in here. Because, I mean, we went into a coffee shop in Thomasville today. I'm not going to name any names. Aesthetically, so, like, our style. We walk right on in, and then we were like, maybe not.
Right.
You know, and it goes back to how we started about Christianism. Like, it was so aesthetically pleasing. It was so, like, modern. And then it was like, Christianity. And I'm like,
On the receipt, probably.
yeah, and I was, you know, and I hate that someone's faith generates fear in me.
Yeah.
But when I see someone's faith, when I see Christianity, it generates fear. And I can't help that. I cannot, like, I have been there's something has conditioned me in my life to see when I'm just like so overwhelmed with the Christian God that I'm like, run in the opposite direction.
Yeah. If you got somebody shooting up a grid in the name of that God, that is enough for you to run away from.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I mean, and that is not that deity's job. Really, that's not. They're taking that, and it's like putting words in their mouth. This deity's mouth. But
You know, and I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I feel comfortable when I start seeing crosses. Not me. I don't feel like and you know, I'm not going to make apology that I'm scared for a reason.
yeah, you talk
know?
about taking away from the black culture. You know, I've done a little bit more research since the pandemic, and we were looking at the difference in when, even from the slave ships to here, you can see the love for Jesus and God with the black community in the South that was replaced with whatever they had before they came here. I mean, it started from there, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that at its core, at its purest form, where we're talking about that, you know, that religion or that is bad or good or whatever. I'm just saying, when you try to replace it with something else, fuck yeah, you're gonna be scared.
Yeah.
You're gonna accept it, or you're gonna be scared about it until you accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what has been so welcoming to people in the last 100 years, is because that actually was working. They got scared enough to accept it, and that shit ain't working anymore.
No.
Nobody's getting scared enough to accept it unless it's in that granddaddy, grandmama, mama, daddy, son, all this. Unless it's in that household where it's ran down, and then the next guy that gets born is that way because it's passed off that way. So anyway.
Definitely a lot more cycle breaking in that regards.
Yeah.
As cliche as that sounds.
I was blessed to not be raised with religion, and you know, like thinking about like being raised as a heathen and then trying to cover it up and in middle school, like, oh, I know who Jesus is, like, yeah, woo. So, like, you know, I was you know, reflecting back, being raised without religion was the best thing that happened to me, because I was able to, like, look at all religions and be like, all right, so there's
None
like,
of you got it right.
yeah, I don't think anyone's right, and why did so many people have to die?
You are listening or watching ASHEBORO Undecided. I want to take this quick break to let you know where we've been the last 2 weeks. It's a weekly show. The last 2 weeks we haven't had a show. It's because I went to Los Angeles, right in the heart of Hollywood, and was able to show one of my films, A Night in Charlotte with Sweeney Ty, at the world-famous TCL Chinese Theater. It was a big opportunity. I couldn't miss it. A lot of people chipped in with their helping hands and made it a possibility for me to go for a couple days and then come back. So that's what's been going on. I actually just found out yesterday that I did win the award for my category, Best Experimental Film. awesome news. So right now I want to let you know that I give a lot of appreciation for our 3 sponsors, which is Michael Gonzalez over at Active Zone Gaming, Charles Chucky Spencer at Amazed Event Planning, and then also Jonathan Coleman at the PRblast.net. Thank you guys so much. I wanted to shout y'all out. There's more information to come, but keep listening or watching. This is Asheboro Undecided. But what you said about me going to China, like, I really opened my eyes up to Buddhism a lot. Never, made the devotion to that, but it just opened me up to the idea of loving everyone, and everything is fleeting. Everything is, we live in the moment, and then the moment's gone.
You see, there's a chapter in the Christian Bible, the Ecclesiastes, that talks about how all is vanity and grasping at the wind.
But they don't want to hear that.
They don't want to hear that.
They
See, that's one of the things.
parts.
I've been able to critically analyze a lot of the Bible because because it's been used against me so much. I was like, well, let me see what this Jesus guy had to say actually.
But that's not what he meant. Is what they're saying.
Right.
So like.
I mean, the way that I understand Christianity is I'm not 100% sure why we're still stuck in the Old Testament.
Right. I don't know.
That was the whole point.
I remember my mother and father saying, like, what if we, time was paused and we had woke up 150 years from now and the only book that was around was the Never-Ending Story. Like, that would be our way of life. Not saying that the Bible is or isn't.
I mean, I would love to ride a luck dragon, though.
Right.
So, I mean.
At any time.
Could the Bible be more like the Never-Ending Story?
It might
close.
We're gonna take a break on that one.
I'm walking out. I'm Costanza on that one.
He's Breakmaster Flex over here. Oh man! Last break he had a good one, but
It's like time and time again, I gotta remind myself what state of mind I'm in. Tomorrow's not promised him, so give flowers to the kid now and honor him. Over time, though, the truth will be told. That time brew music, chicken soup for the soul. Eventually, what was new will be old, but I refuse to mold like wax fruit in a bowl. I'm getting swollen, I shoot for the gold. But silver looking nice, so if I'm moving in pose, it don't really matter, stay true to my goals. The man in the mirror, stay proving the most. I've been ruining foes, who's a nuisance to growth. Don't get confused, I don't use my influence to boast. I just cruise in the shoes, who's improving the dose of the daily intake. Him break news in the post. Loyalty to fam, it's the glue of the code. Last resort nowadays is shooting a toast. If they test my last breath, I maneuver the roast. Mash out, fast flash, blast 2 and I'm ghost. It's like time and time again, I gotta remind myself what state of mind I'm in. Tomorrow's not promised him, so give flowers to the kid now and honor him. It's like time and time again, I gotta remind myself what state of mind I'm in.
Cross crotch.
Oh, okay, now
that's it, okay. Oh, man. Get in on whatever you wanted to get in on.
Man, I don't know. Y'all trying to change the subject or what?
No, just get whatever you wanted to say.
Y'all.
So let me, all right, that's true.
I'm just here for the party.
So look, Ty mentioned we had a Christian rapper in here last week, okay? He was very passionate, all right? One thing, he and I got into it was pretty heavy conversation, okay? Mm-hmm. Because to hear him say, and because he said some things that were like radically Christian, like I was like, what, he did say some of that, but for someone of that strong an opinion to still say, well, Jesus wouldn't have been shooting out, power grids, for someone like that to say, and to basically completely disband what that movement is doing was really nice, okay?
He said he would never get caught dead in a church again.
Yeah.
Unless it was, as a... he says he goes to church once a month.
Once a month.
But he said he would not be caught dead doing something with, like, I guess being a patron to the church or something like this.
Giving his money.
Giving him money, like supporting. He said y'all need to just take off your cloth and be human.
Right. So I think that, and to be fair, I've had, an hour and a half or 90 minutes or whatever over there to stew on this, okay? I think that one of the biggest issues right now is the polarization of this country. Mm-hmm. I think that it's a huge issue. I can point fingers to exactly where I think it came from and why it's there, but it continues to get worse. Mm-hmm. And as we are, as there are certain people becoming more accepting, the polar ends of it are getting more and more and more extreme. And I see it all the time. And it's very concerning to me, right? Because I have a son coming in March, okay? And it'll be my first son. I don't want him growing up in a world where he has to either be way over here or way over there, or he's going to be kicked out of circles. You know what I'm saying? Because when I was coming up, I came up in a more rural, more conservative area, but I had friends in every single spot. Kimberly and I were talking about that over there. So one thing that a strategy that you see, and I'm sure that you can vouch for this, a strategy that you see is the reason people over here can easily dismiss you and your humanity is because they create a straw man of you and a straw man of your movement. Agreed? So, you're not going to convince your 93-year-old grandmother to be accepting of a different community because all she hears is all these straw man arguments towards them, right? Oh, they're pushing an agenda. Oh, it's blah, blah, blah. This is just a way into this XYZ, right? Okay. So it was comforting to hear this Christian rapper kind of break that down a little bit, all right? And I wanted to challenge you, if you could do your best, make your best Iron Man for the people who believe differently than you. The opposite of a straw man.
So let me ask you, what motivation do you want me to use behind this argument? Are you, what would you say is, the goal? The goal
would be, because, again, the massive polarization going on here, I want to see more people crossing hands, going across boundaries and seeing you as a human, okay? And so, again, the more polarizing we are, I think I don't even care what she has to say. You know what I'm saying? So if you, as a member of your community, could speak to members of the other side of the fence, okay, and bring out whatever good intent you think they may have, anything like that, I feel like that could help ease the tension of the conversation.
Well, let me switch legs real quick. Let me switch legs.
Yeah.
See, I have a unique privilege. I have a unique privilege as a queer woman, is that I have already infiltrated that side. I have made positive impacts on humanizing myself and gay people as a whole because I leveraged my better seat at the table. So if you're asking me to speak to individuals on a greater level, that I can't, because that's not where my reach is. My reach is the people that are in front of me.
Okay.
I am striving to be a change, not the change.
All right.
Okay, and if more of us started thinking of being a change and not the only change, then, I start being a change, you start being a change, and we all have different reaches. And so all of a sudden we have this honeycomb of change, right? So I cannot, because I'm so individualistic in infiltrating, if you would want to call it the polar opposite, because of my privileged appearance and leveraging my better seat at the table, that's not something that I can't do, because I humanize myself on a daily basis. I work with people who don't even know that I'm gay, until after
Right.
we have formed a bond.
Right. Gotcha.
Because it's not the only component of my existence.
Okay. I've been in circles in my life to where I had to be the one that was like, listen, there's what's the best way I can say this? I have had to defend your community in my life. And I mean,
see, they're willing to
unfortunately-
say shit to you. They're not willing to say shit to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Now
You know
mind
what
you,
but
yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest.
No, yeah.
Like, I'm like, here, I'm an amazing, great, wonderful person. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, by the way, I'm gay.
Right.
Oh, well, I guess you just can't tell anymore.
Right.
And then their
Right.
whole worldview changes.
Unfortunately.
Because I am blonde hair, blue-eyed,
You
5'8".
tricked them motherfuckers. How dare you
How dare
trick
you
them?
trick them?
I'm just leveraging my seat at the table,
Right.
right? So, because at the end of the day, they're not going to say, oh, ugh,
Yeah.
because
To you.
to me,
Yeah.
right? They're not
Right.
going to say that to my face.
Mhm.
So I've got to infiltrate them differently.
Right.
Like, I'm not ever in, I cannot recall a position where I have been in where I have had to be defensive
Right.
in that aspect. I am just merely me being me and be like, oh, by the way, I'm also gay.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, huh.
Well, that's the level. I agree with what you were saying earlier. That's the level of acceptance that we should strive for. Where that's not, oh, this is my gay friend. Like, this is my friend. And if you want to know more about her, we can talk.
Yeah.
I think that's the level of acceptance that we need to reach. I don't think we're there right now. This is from the from the outside looking in,
Yeah.
as like an ally.
Because more people, I mean,
Uh-huh.
more, they're, like, people who have this kind of privilege don't always know how to leverage this kind of privilege, especially for the queer community, because we're all intersect. Like there's so many intersectionalities of what queer looks like. So.
Right. Let me think of a.
And good on you for standing up, but like, please understand that usually, unless I am with my partner who is mask presenting, but loves her vagina and boobs and does
Congrats on those.
But no one clocks me,
Right.
so I can get into circles and change people's minds on what gay looks like,
That's good.
So like that isn't the kind of war battles that I have to be present for.
Right. Gotcha.
That's a lot of like what true allyship is that because they know you're not a part of a community or are assuming that you're not a part of the community, you're gonna get the nasty part that they're not gonna show me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm asking. I'm sorry. Right.
You can go ahead.
So this is what I had to do for my friends here in town. I always have to go to certain places before I would be like, hey, we can go in here together, as people of color, as somebody from the east side. And so I'm guessing that's not like, I'm not trying to compare, but I see what you're saying, that I could get in there and just see the outlook. People were more accepting to me as a white man than me bringing in 5 white friends with me, and be like, hey, this is still not a place you need to go to, but this is a place you need to go to. So you were talking to me at the Pride Festival about Thomasville and how things are different when y'all are together versus when you were by yourself. What kind of deterrent is that for you? I know, like Ren just said about, there's gonna, I'm already put in my plans that there's gonna be a time when they're gonna cross the line, and this is gonna be not a place we're gonna go to anymore. Is this a constant thing?
Oh yeah, it's a constant thing. It's a constant worry, especially when like we're traveling somewhere. You don't know which gas stations to stop at, and it's my job, if I continue to maintain my appearance. It's my job to protect, because of my privilege, it is my job to protect bodies like Ren's and bodies like my black friends and my brown friends. Like my existence is partly to protect, underrepresented communities. And so, you know, it's not a good feeling to go into the gas station to see if it's safe for her to use the bathroom.
But it's a necessity.
It is a necessity to survive.
It's fucking sad, dude.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
Yeah. Where? Let's say where on God's green earth would you feel like you wouldn't have to do that?
Oh, Provincetown Road, Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Okay. All right.
Provincetown, Massachusetts. Even the tiny gas station that we hit on driving back down on the Cape was like, we were like, do you feel unsafe? No. Do you feel unsafe? No. No one looked at us weird. No one blinked an eye. And that's really the first time I've seen myself so vastly represented in a very small space. It was like Pride, but it was just a normal day.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the only place that so far.
So far, that is the only place that I have experienced where I wasn't so... When I'm by myself, I walk around without fear. I really do. It's quite impressive how, like, my privilege is just... I could walk down the streets of, you know, the hardest street in the world and not be touched because, oh, we don't want to scare the white girl. You know, like, so... I'm not like that when I'm by myself, but when I'm with my friends that don't look like me, you know, it's a constant fear. Constant.
And it's such a shame because, you know, like you said, you can go somewhere on your own and people don't judge you in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
They might, but not in
all I'll get is like, oh, you got a pretty mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's pretty much, or, hey, yo, girl, can I get your number?
Right.
You know, like,
Which
just...
you've been acclimated to since you were 12.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
so...
You're from this area?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've definitely been acclimated to it.
Which it shouldn't make... You
I know,
shouldn't have to be, but
I
still,
know.
like...
But that's the worst that I'll get,
Yeah.
right?
But you, the same exact person, can go into the same exact place with different people, and it's like you're a different person.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's just sad.
At 15 years old or 16 years old, I realized that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I would come back down to the east side, pick my friends up, and we'd play basketball every Sunday. Man, I was fucking off driving up to pick them up. I was fucking off. No seatbelt. Bam, bam, bam. Not turn lights. Running a red light, I think. Saw a cop. I was like, oh, shit. Put my seatbelt on, picked my buddies up. Went to play basketball, came back through the same thing. The cop pulled me over then with four white guys in the car. I said, why didn't you pull me over earlier? I was doing all kinds of shit. So you were alone. And I mean, at 15, 16, or 16 years old, I didn't have any of the balls enough to say anything else. So I was like, oh, okay. They started asking for licenses and all that. And I was like, I'm the only one driving. I'm the only one that need to have a license. Yeah. That's as much balls as I had. But I mean, I realized that pretty quick when it came to actually the law. And when they do something like that, here you go. And they've improved here a lot, but they've not improved a lot. They've improved here, and then it's like you got a whole piece of the pie. You know what I'm saying? You got a pepperoni over here, and then the whole other side of the pie has no pepperoni. You know?
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good that there's some pepperonis, you know.
Yeah,
at least there's some pepperonis out there. That's a good thing.
But like she said, I always get to eat. You know what I'm saying? These other people that don't have,
that's true.
They don't have that.
Yeah.
Poor guys, they're in jail.
Yeah. When you talked about privilege, you know, certain groups, like you said, are more comfortable saying things to me than they would say to other people, and that's opened some hellacious conversations in my life because I'm like, I don't know what you think I am. You know, just because I look like you doesn't mean I think like you. You know what I'm saying?
I can imagine.
I have a question, and I hate to use the word trigger because it's become such a terrible term or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is an actual psychological term. What types of things can people do differently to make you feel more like you're in that town, in that safe town? What are the things that people are doing or that places are doing that make you feel unaccepted in that neighborhood?
So I think some of it can't be helped, right? So, like the cute little coffee shop that we went to. want them to change. Like, if that's the foundation of their business, I don't want them to feel like they have to change that. But they need to understand that intention and impact are very different.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're intending on spreading the good Lord's word, you know, like, your impact on, like, say, someone like me who doesn't really subscribe and sees it as, like, a red flag of, like, am I welcome here? That's the impact of it, right?
Yeah.
So, like, but I don't want them to have to change their entire business model just to make me comfortable, unless they care enough about their impact.
I understand that, but at the same time, if we were to, because I honestly think our conversation today is the same conversation that Black Americans were having 50 years ago. That's what I believe. And so if you look at, I always try and put this conversation in that lens.
Mm-hmm.
Always in the racism lens, because it's similar in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well, I
know?
mean, the queer rights movement and the civil rights movement historically are right there.
Right.
Like if it weren't for queer Black feminists,
Mhm.
we would not have civil rights. We
Right.
would not have
Right.
queer rights. Like,
Yeah.
So, what I want to say to you is, being the devil's advocate, you say you don't want the businesses to do this, but why not? Because
That's-
we're talking about education.
That's
well,
what I'm
that's
saying, yeah.
We're
that's
talking
okay.
about education.
So
with
it's
that same-
intention versus impact,
Right.
right? So maybe they don't understand the impact, but maybe they don't care about the impact. You
But
know,
as a
like, and if
business
they don't,
owner-
and if they don't care about the impact, I don't want them to make themselves smaller so that I can have some space, because that's not the point,
Yeah.
right? Like, the point isn't to make anyone smaller. It's just
Right.
there's enough room for all of us to fit.
Right.
We don't have to condense, like. But
But
to answer
using that education that you said about including all the
Mhm.
students, why not include all your potential employees?
I mean, and I can also play devil's advocate. What if I opened a coffee shop right next door, and all of it was Antichrist stuff?
Right.
Would it be treated the same?
It would not, because there's a
Yeah, there's a Wiccan store. Right?
that's being pushed out now. I mean,
Is it?
I don't see that being there in January 1st.
Right.
Right. But you know that these are a lot of the things that we have to think about when we're thinking about how
True.
to solve the problem.
Right.
Right. So to answer the actual question of, like, what can businesses do or communities do to make me feel safer, one of the smallest, cheapest things that anyone can do is go online, take the Safe Zone training, and get your little sticker. You know, like, and then have it on the door right there where it says Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, gays. Like, we
I'm gonna
accept.
do that. I'm gonna do it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it. If I
Like-
just gotta do it online, I'll do it.
And-
I mean, we're gonna be only open one day a
Yeah.
week, starting in 2023.
But that's,
if
I
can
mean,
do it,
that's where
yeah.
you start. You start identify, and it doesn't have to be like, we don't want to make anyone smaller by making us bigger, you know. And I think that that's just a collective of all, like, we're just trying to fit in this space, in the same amount of space.
Right.
We're not trying to condense anyone, but
Yeah.
like, so, like, one of the first things to do is to make sure that people know that, or at least queer people know, that it's okay if we walk in this
Yeah.
store.
Yeah.
And it's not just, you know, like the coffee shop, right? There's been tattoo places that I've walked in and I'm like,
Different vibe.
don't think that this tattoo shop is for me,
Yeah.
and then go somewhere else.
Right.
But then I've walked into tattoo shops and I'm like, oh, queers everywhere. You know, like,
Yeah.
Right.
I could
representation everywhere.
I could just imagine you going into these shops downtown Asheboro now, because it's like there was a Caribbean restaurant up until today. Today they closed down, which would be
Today?
the only
Mm.
the Bun Hut we were talking about. They're looking for a new owner, but I mean, it's a Caribbean. It's got culture with it, and you know, it didn't get necessarily pushed out, but it doesn't. You know, nobody's going to it
Yeah. I mean, you have to
Because-
have business to stay open.
because they want to go to something that they know.
Yeah.
They want to go to the fast food. But I would be interested in your outlook on Asheboro, just going into some of the stores after this conversation and be
Yeah.
like, where did you, like, I don't want to put you in there's not going to be a dangerous situation, but
Yeah.
where did you feel?
Yeah.
The
Where
most
did
welcome.
you feel the most welcome? Because I can already guarantee you that I have the top 5 that you'll feel welcome to, and then the top
And
5
it's just
you
a
won't.
vibe. Like, it's not even just like,
That's
I
kinda-
mean,
that's-
like
that was
it's
kinda my
real, and
question.
it's really like if you want to simplify it for us, put the sticker on there. But it's like, it's the vibe, you know. It's the who said hello to me and looked me in the eyes, who didn't cut their eyes at my partner
Yeah.
and then look at me.
So common
know?
courtesy would
Yeah,
be the
like-
X factor. I mean, what a bizarre concept.
I hate to say that. I hate to say that, or because there's no rhyme or reason, but you know, the record stops when you walk into a store and they're not wanting you there.
Yeah.
See,
The literal record goes.
Head spins,
yeah,
breaking necks.
yeah.
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 And it's sometimes so nuanced, and a change of like just a subtle change in body language. That there's no like, I wish there was like there was a red letter that shows up above their heads like The Sims.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, but there's not. The record stops, and there can be just a slight shift in the body language
Right.
Yeah. Of the entire room.
Yeah.
of the entire room.
yeah.
So that's a
And it could just be a shift. Like, it could just be a literal, like, shift. Or, you know, like, the pursing of the lips that happens
yeah.
when, you know, people are like...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It could be just as subtle as cutting their eyes at Ren and then looking at me.
Yeah.
And then smiling.
Yeah.
So, it's just... It's a feeling, really.
Yeah.
There's something that makes... I mean, I'm sure it has to do with, like, our survival instincts. Something makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Something is being ignited. Hormones are being released in
Right.
the space that are telling me to flee.
Right.
Yeah.
One is, I'm sure it's a response to, you know, to past stories or past
I honestly,
events.
looking like this, I honestly have no terror story. I personally have
Right.
no trauma related to me being gay.
Right. That.
I have trauma,
Yeah.
but
You-
not related to me being
Yeah.
gay.
My fear is that it's just an overall vibe. That there's no specific things I could go and educate people. Hey, don't do this when, you know, if someone comes in the room that you're unfamiliar with.
I mean, it's
That's my
paying
fear.
attention to your body language.
Mm-hmm.
Are your shoulders? I mean, I can break it down. Did your shoulders tense up?
Right.
Did you accidentally cut your eyes from the person that told you that they were, you know, like their appearance told you, said, hey, that one's gay. You know, like, you can say, like, did you cut your neck too hard? Did you, like, you know, purse your lips? Like, I could break, did you close off your body posture?
Right.
You know, like, we can break down some nonverbals that really are tells that are probably signaling. But a lot of it's, like, if there is genuine, like, we're going to feel it.
Right.
People feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hormone release.
It's I mean, I know I say unfortunate, but, you know, life is unfortunate, but that my fear with that is because it's like we really are going to need a whole cultural acceptance, and it, which was a good thing, but, you know, it's like you said, coming from now I won't get into my whole spiel, and this podcast isn't about me anyway, but coming from the family I came up in, I need to tell you that it is unfortunate to hear that someone simply wearing a cross would give you that response because of the Christian community and because of Christianism. It's really, really sad that that's the case. And I'm not saying that that's anything. Obviously, you can't help the way that you feel. Mm-hmm. And these assholes that are making you feel that way could definitely help the way that they're making you feel. Mm-hmm. But it's so unfortunate because that side of the fence is massive. It's massive. And there's a lot of good people who would put a cross around their neck. The same way that's the biggest. Oh, and that's the biggest issue to me.
If there's a cross on the neck, it's more like a yellow flag, right? Proceed with caution.
Right.
Right? So, like, it's when they get into mobs.
Right.
It's
like,
no,
absolutely. and I'm of the mind that who you trying to... Here's my thing. If you go on the top of that ceiling and you are on the top of the roof and say, I'm a Christian, I believe it, like, who are you trying to convince? Yeah. Yourself? And that's how I feel when people, you know, put crosses on their neck or whatever. Be like, you're just afraid that if you don't do that, You'll like burn for eternity or something.
I mean, meanwhile, my girlfriend wears the evil eye. During an interview, I said, you need to make sure you're hiding that or taking it off.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? But
You know, either hide
Yeah,
it or
and-
take it off because it is not a cross.
and the fact that people are so good at categorizing strangers based off of absolute nonsense.
Well, just as a little bit of a refresher for this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way as what you're categorizing that in. I was the same way
Yeah.
about like just I get away with me from all this
Right.
prayer, this
Right.
fuck it all.
Yeah.
Then I started marching with these people.
Mm-hmm.
The people here, not a certain
Right.
race or I've marched with the people of this community.
Yeah.
And they started using prayer in a whole different way.
Yes.
That wasn't shoved down a throat. That wasn't told this way and this
Exactly.
way. They started using their deity's name in this way and that way. And then I started looking at it as comfort as this is not always the way that it is.
Yes.
And, I wouldn't accept it, but fuck. At this point, I was 40 years old.
Yeah.
Fuck you if I'm not taking my hat off on a prayer.
Right.
When I see these people move and they march, they pray, I'm taking my fucking hat off.
Mm-hmm. But that
And
matters.
it does-
Context matters.
Yeah. And I
Intention,
Intention
versus
matters.
intention
Yeah.
matters.
And the problem is that what I think is going on, there's powers that be that know that they can use that Christian word and that Christian term to control a massive population, to believe a massive agenda. They can do that. And it's again, unfortunate, extremely unfortunate that you have leaders in place that so easily, Book of Eli, right? You ever see that movie?
No.
So the Book of Eli, he's
Let me see that again.
I mean, sorry.
Watched it.
The
I
whole
am
bunch
not
of-
one
it's
to be
fine.
like,
One-
oh,
it's
let's
fine.
go
The
watch
one
it.
movie I know. I'm like, never see movies. At the end of that movie,
I never see shows or anything. So like when it
You're
comes
good,
to pop
you're good.
culture,
Listen,
I was speaking at Comic-Con and I like the only thing I knew was Deadpool, and so like everything I related to
The
was
one movie.
Deadpool. Just
They-
one thing.
they
I was
always-
like, well,
they always give me crap because they talk movies. I just don't. I'm
I
not
don't
into
either.
cinema. I'm into music. I just don't get into it.
Right.
It's a very expensive hobby in my eyes. Very expensive hobby. But so Book of Eli, the whole big thing was they were talking about how much control and power you can get with the Bible. That was like the whole spiel. And it's very true. But like you said, you go to the right kind of communities and and all you feel is love from it.
Yeah.
The Bible itself, that's a whole nother topic. But you can go into certain Christian communities and feel nothing but love and acceptance.
Yeah.
And then you can go 2 miles down the road and go to one that said if you got the vaccine, that's the sign of the Antichrist and XYZ, it's unreal.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's all, again, grouped together
Under one book.
under one book and under one religion is depressing in a lot of ways.
During the lockdown and during the marches and everything, really opened my eyes to that part.
Mhm. The real
Yeah.
part.
So they will use it as a shield,
Mhm.
but you do not have to show your shield off every fucking second
Right.
of every fucking day.
That's just
You only throw
insecurity,
your
man.
shield. If they use it as a shield and a sword, you don't
Mhm.
need to be fucking showing your pissing contest off.
This is the difference in
Every
religion
day.
and spirituality. I feel
Yeah.
like that's the difference.
If you have faith in something, you have faith in something. There is something going on.
Yeah.
There is spirituality in all of this world. And what you accept and what you don't accept shouldn't be the same thing as somebody else accepts. And we don't have to agree upon it.
Yeah.
But there are some things that we need to agree upon, like all of us fucking being
Yes.
human.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's what we need to agree upon.
Absolutely.
Not what you want to eat for breakfast and what you want to fucking.
We're never going to agree on what to
Yeah.
eat for breakfast.
Yeah, nobody is.
It's not going to happen.
So that's what it is.
Yep.
That's what it is. And essentially, I'm not downgrading it to a person's lifestyle as the same as a breakfast. But if you can't agree upon something as simple as when to wake up and when to fucking shit and shower and
Yeah.
shave, you're not going to agree upon your lifestyle.
Yeah.
But you're going to agree upon us being humans.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's
So even if you can agree about it, how about you accept it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And include it.
And include it.
Yeah. and included. Inclusion is the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think we did go off on a whole bunch of
I'm
tangents.
so.
but-
I mean,
Hey,
look,
I'm good. I'm following.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm right. I mean, I'm right there. Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I told you, I mean, I could go on because there's so much that needs to be said about
Yeah.
about the topic, and I know that so much is not said,
Yeah.
and so much, like I said, is strawmanned, and they're like dismissed.
Well, here's the thing: they're also killing their community when they're doing that because, like,
yes,
like diversity, equity,
Mhm.
and inclusion. Those are the three components of thriving societies,
Mhm.
Yeah.
thriving communities. You cannot get a thriving community in a homogenous area.
hmm
You can't.
Yeah. You know what happens? You get 5 thrift stores downtown, and everything else gets shut out and thrown out of the Sunset Boulevard. That's what
And-
happens.
Yeah.
That's what
Inbreeding.
happens. And also
Yeah.
some inbreeding.
But
Also
it's not
inbreeding.
that. It's not that.
No, no.
It's like a third cousin. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, really. It's a.
But you're right. You're right. And
She's my
there was
stepsister.
a
Who's
time.
your stepdaddy,
Yeah,
motherfucker?
I can't say anything because
Yeah.
my dad on his 4th marriage did marry his brother's wife, so she ended up
Brother's
being
wife is fine. That doesn't matter.
Auntie-
That's whatever.
It's my auntie mom.
Whatever, brother's.
Like
Well, that's not.
anti-mom,
That's fine.
auntie mom.
That's fine.
Look.
Look, but I mean, there was a time in human history. You're talking 200,000 plus years of human history. There was a time when it mattered to be in tight groups, and it mattered to be tribalistic. It mattered because you were going to get killed off if you weren't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it's like that dumb shit is still in our brains, right? So we
Well,
don't
all
want to
took
accept
care of each other,
also that.
and then
Yes.
all of a sudden we went from like, I have apples, you have oranges, you want to
Uh-huh.
trade,
Yeah.
to
Fuck
like
your oranges.
to you coming. I'm just saying, but to you coming in and being like, I'm going to sell all my apples,
Right.
like for money and
Yeah.
power,
Yeah.
like.
And
So the tribe. I think that because we've gotten away from the tribe mentality, that we no longer have space to take care of one another,
Mhm.
and so then we don't feel obligated to minority groups because what's a tribe? Like,
Yeah.
why should I take care of them?
Yeah.
Why is that my problem?
Well,
Why
it's
is
becoming-
homelessness my problem? Why
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
education? I don't have any kids. Why is
It's a
education
point
my
of privilege.
problem?
It's a point of privilege. That's
Right. Like,
from a position of
But
privilege.
tribes actually didn't exist like that. If you were born into the tribe, like, we got your back.
Yeah.
It takes a village.
Right.
Like, we got your back.
Yeah.
No one. Now we don't have anyone's back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why
Or
the
we
fuck
fit-
should I care? Why
Yeah.
the fuck should I care about you?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's.
I got my own problems.
Right.
But again, I mean, I'm not asking for anyone to go out into the streets and fucking picket a place that is not being inclusive. I'm not asking for that.
Right.
I'm asking for you to be a fucking decent human. I don't, and it seems like such a foreign concept these days.
Mhm.
And maybe this is just me being like an old man on the porch about it, like waving my arms around. But like, I really feel that way. I mean, things have become so polarized that if not me,
Right.
if someone shows apathy towards someone across the fence, they're pushed out of their community. And not all communities are like that. Let me be clear. But the more extreme ones, it really feels that way.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, good on you for realizing it's a them problem and not an us problem.
yeah.
Because we have been trying to, like, hey, just do a little reflection inward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And think about the things that you contribute to the society and what needs to change because it doesn't serve the whole.
I think that the reason it's a them problem is because
But that's not what I'm
No, no.
saying. Is congratulations on that because I'm going to make some assumptions. Cis white male, right? Like, so, like, not a lot of cis white men think it's a them problem. They think that we should be
Yeah.
doing more.
Well, because I really think that just boils down to honestly, it just boils down to the majority of that population has never been exposed to a gay person they cared about.
Yeah.
Period. Point blank.
And that's why I like to infiltrate.
Right. That period. Point blank. I mean, it's like your opinion will never change if you're not challenged by someone you respect.
Yeah.
Respect
Or
and
care.
love or care for.
This is the thing about that I know from experience from our our city,
Mm-hmm.
our county, there's people that have never, ever seen the ocean.
Mm.
There are people here that have never,
That's
ever
insane.
sit down and talk to a black person.
Jesus.
Never been in the same room as a black person. I mean, that right there.
Yeah.
Well, you don't learn about the things you're taught to fear.
Yeah.
Right.
And
You just-
and it splits down the middle with that. Were they not around anybody? Because really, growing up out here, there could be in your school 4 or 5,
Depending on the community,
minorities,
yeah.
yeah.
Depending on it, yeah.
or there could be all you have is 60% of Mexican population.
Yeah.
So you at that point you're almost segregated then.
Mhm.
And you've got your 40% that you stay with, and the 60% that they stay there.
Yeah.
That they never speak with anybody,
Mhm.
and that in there lies a huge problem.
Huge problem.
Bringing some people to each other to just be in the same room and act like that they're humans
Mhm.
is what in love.
Right.
Love is key. You know, it sounds so cliche and so
But it's
hippie.
so real.
But
dude.
I was raised in love, and that's what got me through every fucking thing to be 42 years old.
Mhm.
It got me through the shittiest time. Yeah,
Old as dirt
It
over
got
there.
through the shittiest times. It gets me through the times that I am now.
Mhm.
It gets me through the hope that thinking that this love may conquer some person's heart. And hopefully, if it doesn't conquer them, they stay their ass at home and don't ever
Yeah.
fucking leave it.
Yeah.
See, again, how you're just kind of highlighting how homogenous communities will die and not thrive. Is
Yeah.
that like they've never had these experiences because we don't create space for transplants.
Mhm.
Never
Yeah.
safe. My whole family was a transplant from here in the late 70s. I was born in 80, and still they do not feel like they're welcome here.
Mhm.
This is 40 years later.
It's crazy.
My father still gets the damn Yankee shit. They went to a point to where they decided to play nothing but country music in their auto repair shop because
Or just because the perceptions.
just to shut the motherfuckers up. You know, he's been in business 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody that works there are products of that transplant.
And I would love to ask him, has that gotten worse or has it gotten better over 30 years?
His customer base has gotten better, but the ones that are there to
Mhm.
it's
Worse.
yeah.
That's the thing, you know?
Yeah. They still come
because they're starting to shrink, and
They-
so now they're like on the extra defense.
Well, in the
they still come in there.
and the polarization as well, and the tribalism as well. Why, if I want to meet with you, I'm going to lose everyone I care about. There's groups that are
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
There's groups that are like that.
Mhm.
You know,
And so they stay reserved, and it's all out of fear.
yeah.
It's all out of privilege. I'm just going to assume everything about you because of something that my uncle said. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
But it is, and I feel like, maybe I really try not to hone in on negative emotions, but I think that it would be naive to say that there's not more of that culture in this country than there is the culture that we're talking about.
Mhm.
But we're also, like we said last week, it is the South.
This
This is where we're
That's
submerged
true.
in.
That's true.
This is a small fragment of
That is true.
Yeah.
and but I don't.
Three cities in the entire state of North Carolina have
Yeah.
protections for gay people.
And
Straight
this is
across
with a
the board.
Democratic governor.
Yeah, and thankfully,
3 cities,
thank-
not counties.
yeah,
Cities.
thankfully, the NBA stepped up pretty early in the game and pulled out of the All-Star game
Hmm.
because they wouldn't have friendly bathrooms.
Hmm.
So thankfully, that was a step in the right direction to where at least somebody, I think it was Charlotte.
Yeah.
Was it Charlotte? Agreed.
Yeah.
So I mean that's inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not conversion.
Right. Exactly.
No,
and I think
conversion
that's
is like telling me the word of God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
of your date.
We were talking about that last
That's
week.
conversion.
Yeah.
I'm not like I
Well,
don't think it.
you're not going in the building and be like, look, you should try this out. You know, you should try out my lifestyle.
Don't be gay. It's hard.
It's not the greatest time for sure.
It's a good it's a good time, but it's a little difficult.
No, I mean, it's a good time.
It's a great time.
Not a good time in history. Let's say that.
Great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great time for me in my life.
Yeah.
But
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, so I've been divorced. I was married to a woman. Our wedding, though, because it was in 2015, became a political statement. So
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I had people that
That's
I
exactly
hadn't
what I'm
spoken
saying.
to in 10 years call me
Yeah.
up and say, "Hey, can I come to your wedding? I've never been to a gay wedding." I was like, "What are you expecting? Unicorns, just shitting diamonds,
So-
yeah.
It's
like a threesome in the yard.
Right.
We're gonna be burning crosses.
It's art. That is art.
with the best man and the bridesmaid
Yeah.
and the preacher. You know.
Yeah.
All the brides are wearing
Preachers-
suits. There's 10 of us.
Preachers in a thong, you know. So,
But like,
I-
it just was a political statement. It was
Yeah.
not our intention.
Yeah,
That's-
But like that.
2015 was a crucial year.
For a long time, my position with art was everything I did was a political statement. Even like I went to the grocery store in Thomasville today, it was a political statement. You know, like, and I didn't mean for it to be.
hear me out, though. Hear me out. Gay rights should not be political.
Yeah.
Why is that political?
Human rights should not be.
Human
political.
rights should not be political.
Like let's just. It's not just like. Human
Why is
rights.
this political? I do not understand. This nice person is not trying to push an agenda on anyone.
Well,
She's just a human.
I have to say this while we're at it. We had it last week. My decision was not political for that concert either. We're talking. You said it last week that it was a political statement.
Yeah.
It was
no,
not.
I know.
I
misspoke. I misspoke.
No, it was.
Intention versus
It was.
impact.
It was.
Yeah.
It
You
was.
can only
It was to
control the
live by the
intention.
code.
I know.
It wasn't
I
a political
misspoke on that.
It seemed like it was maybe, but it wasn't.
It was perceived that way for
Yeah,
sure, but
yeah.
no. I misspoke.
But, yeah.
That's my. I apologize.
That's been heavy on
I
my
know.
mind.
I'm sure. I knew I was going to be planting something in there when I was like, Tyler and I haven't even spoke about this.
Well, that's good. That's what this is here
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
We did. I backed out of a concert because of something that white MC dropped the N-bomb, and there was a lot of things that were going on with the Blind Tiger, and I was like, I'm not doing this show. And it was a good. It could have been a good opportunity. And then he mentioned last week that it was a political thing. I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah,
So
no,
it wasn't.
I know it wasn't a political thing.
Yeah, but I mean,
There's no
my
agenda.
wedding wasn't political, but it ended up
It just-
being
yeah.
like
And
we
that's the
don't
thing.
get to put those labels on
Right.
the things that impact people.
Yeah.
Like we just do,
But
and then
it's-
other people put that on us.
I just like my story for that would be so in 2020, okay, 2020, my fiance works in healthcare, I work in healthcare. There's healthcare all around us.
I've been in healthcare since I was 17.
Okay, so we went in there, 2020. This is a new issue, right?
Mhm.
Nobody knows what the hell's going on, but we know it's killing people. Okay. I thought it was common sense. I thought everyone was wearing masks. That's what I thought. I was like, why would you not be? Because I was around that, and so I make a post like, be sure to wear a mask. You could save a life, right? And this was like April, like it had just started. And mind you, we'd already seen people die from it. We worked in healthcare. And so that was immediately like, why are you being political? I was like, what? Like, I was so blindsided that was even a political topic. Because I don't keep up with the news much, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. But see, we were on top of it as a community, as the queer community. We've had AIDS. We've watched as people, I wasn't there. I'm a generation beyond that, and I'm fortunate.
But you're educated.
I'm fortunate to have people around me that actually lived through it to tell the tale.
Yeah.
While then they're the only ones standing of their group of 20 people that grew up together. You know, it's heartbreaking, but like we as a queer community, we weren't playing. Like
Yeah.
we know what a pandemic is,
Yeah.
you know, and we know what it means to like not be heard by the government
Yeah.
or by people. Like this was not new to us. We were
Right.
like, we're just gonna strap up, you know, like
Yeah.
make sure that we're being safe because
Right.
we can't control people around
It
us.
just blew my mind because I was like, what? Like,
Yeah,
I had no idea it was a
it was
political
kind of
thing.
like not choosing not to wear a condom and being HIV positive.
Mm.
Like that's
Yeah,
what
that's
that
exactly
that's what like wearing
Yeah.
a mask
Well, I
was
put it.
about. Like
I mean, I flipped it the other way because the wearing a mask was never about protecting myself. It was about protecting my community and the people around me. That's why I wore a mask, because in case I sneeze, I won't sneeze on your doorknob. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was
Yeah.
about. It was more about protecting you, less
no,
me.
you've got to make sure that people understand it's for them because people are humans are selfish.
And this is what I've learned. That's what I learned.
Humans
That's what
are
that taught me.
selfish.
That's what it taught me. Well, man, you know, whatever. If it happens, it happens, you know. Whatever.
Like,
And
he,
that's
like
some-
he said last week, I mean, he
Mhm.
said like they're gonna go to, or you said it, they're
Yeah.
gonna go to heaven anyway.
I said,
so,
going to go to heaven. Yeah, that's
I mean, that's-
Christianity's biggest flaw.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, Christ taught compassion. He did, but Christians teach, what the fuck you got to do with me? I'm gonna go to heaven anyway. I don't care how you live your life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's terrible. One more thing, okay? And I know I'm dragging stuff on
You
here.
good? I'm good. As
Um,
you good, bro.
I want to tell you how comforting it was to hear you say that something as simple as a sticker on the door would make a difference for you. Because I was in healthcare administration, and I was told, forced to take Pride in Care training, okay? My immediate thought was if someone comes in and sees this, they're going to think I needed to do that. That was my immediate thought. I mean, I did, you know, and I'm happy to did it. They didn't teach me anything I didn't already know. But I did, and it was certification. I hung it on the wall. But my thought was, well, if someone comes in, they're going to think I had to do that, right? Like it was forced. Like I needed the education. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-mm.
And so it was
the way that a lot of our programs are set up is that like it's a choice,
and
right?
that's good. But it is comforting hearing that from you, because I was immediately like, I don't want someone coming in here and thinking I was going to get written up, and I had to take this thing, you know, or something along those lines. It was literally just the guy was like, someone from your facility needs to take this, and I volunteered. And I
that's someone in your facility needs to take this, and I volunteered. We're any of the legit LGBTQ like certifications or stickers that you can get, like including like, and this goes beyond like, you know, like we can talk about cultural competencies, we can talk about pronouns, like all of this education, you know, we as a community always try to make sure that it's a voluntary thing.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in your organization needs to take this,
Mhm.
and you volunteered for
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
It's not like everyone has to take
Yeah.
this. I mean, culturally, a lot of people have to do the cultural competence for jobs, but you don't get a sticker for it.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't hang it outside your door if you
Right.
didn't want people to know that you are, you're okay to take this on.
Well, and I'll tell you without, you know, dropping any, you know, terrible information, I took that from that facility.
Mhm.
Next place I worked, I was like, I have this. They were like, I'd rather not get political here. I mean, you know, like, so I'm telling you, I learned this last year how deep some of this shit still is.
Mhm.
I really did. And how polarizing it's getting. And also, this was in Moore County. This is in Moore County. And so when that happened, everybody was like shocked. I'm like, I probably know who the hell did it, because he was probably a patient in my building.
Right.
I mean, it's brutal. It's really brutal. But it's comforting to know that if I were to have hired you and you came into my office and you saw that, you would be appreciative of it,
Mhm.
not like, you know.
Yeah, so there's a component of it that's performative. Sure, right? You do a thing, you get a sticker. All of a sudden, you're like, haha! You get your ally button,
that's what I'm
right?
saying,
Like,
yeah.
right? So there's a piece of it, but in the same sense, it's a quick way to know who's got my back
Yeah.
in a room.
Yeah.
And I will never take away that stuff. And especially knowing what I know about it being voluntary, we don't want to force anyone because even if you are forced to take safe zone training, for example, by your company,
Yeah.
you're not forced to then apply the sticker outside the wall, because one of safe zone's things is do not hang the sticker if you do not want it.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not committing to creating this safe zone under these guidelines, don't fucking hang it. Like, it says it right
Yeah.
there in the training.
Yeah.
Like, you can take this all you want for your corporation. Okay, cool. Just don't hang it outside your door.
Well, I don't know. And again, maybe it was just the wrong way of even thinking about it. But that was
It's
that was a concern of
it's a
mine.
valid way to think about
Yeah.
it, because we are in that age where we start thinking, is what I'm doing genuinely impactful and pure intentioned, or is it performative?
Mm-hmm.
But because of the way things like safe zone training are structured,
Yeah.
they're structured not for you, they're for us, because there's no obligation for you to stick it on your wall.
Yeah.
But you chose to stick it on your wall. Even after reading the big bold letters of don't fucking post it on your wall if you're
Yeah.
not willing to do
Right.
these damn things.
Yeah.
So you're still willing to do that.
Yeah.
And there's some things that you have to sign up. Like, you have to be willing to kick a patron out if they're
Mm-hmm.
harassing me. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're promising to do.
Right.
So it's not it's a small sticker. It's somewhat performative, but it's a good way to know if I am being chased
Yeah.
by a mob of angry anti-gay people,
Which is
which
very
which
real
It's a real
possibility.
possibility.
which building
sucks,
can I
but
go
yeah.
into
Right.
that's not going to
Yeah.
out? That's the worst case scenario. But
But it's a possibility.
I mean, but
especially because we don't look, it's something that's really interesting about our community and the development of our civil rights. We don't all look the same. So we can't just have we have the gay the gay flag, but there's no subtle way to be you're
Right.
welcome here.
Yeah, it's
Right.
just about knowing where you can take a breath.
Right.
Where you can stop looking over your shoulder for a second.
yeah.
And know, I can be in here and be comfortable and exist as in it.
And when I was taking that, I was saying to myself, I would hate that someone would have to come in and see that before they felt comfortable with me, because I'm always about action, and so it was a little bit of that. But like I said,
But
the
again,
moral of that
you're
was
probably
it's
not going to
comforting
have
say
the record stopping in your store. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
probably not. The likelihood, just knowing your vibe, and when I walked in here,
Yeah.
I don't think that the record would stop.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't see those nuances in your behavior, and also, your hormones aren't saying, "Oh my God, it's gay,"
Yeah.
and my hormones aren't going "Oh my God, he's a gay hater."
Right.
So those are the things that signal us. But the sticker is an extra added bonus. Okay.
Yeah.
Not only does he doesn't care, I can take a breath
Right.
in here, just
Yeah.
like what Ren said.
When-
I can
Yeah, and that was because I was in HR in that field, and I can honestly tell you that there were places in that building where someone would not be welcome, and so that on the other hand, it was nice to say, you're fine,
Mhm.
I mean, the fact that I was employing people in that community should have been, enough information, but it's nice to know that you wouldn't see something like that as performative.
right. I mean,
But I mean,
in
my
own-
action-
even
yeah.
in my own healthcare, there were a lot of people I wasn't out to.
Mm-hmm. Healthcare in
Like,
North
there were
healthcare in
like,
North
even
Carolina.
even in my corporation,
Yeah,
when I was top tier,
Mhm.
some people didn't even
Yeah.
know that I was gay.
I mean,
So-
being in healthcare in North Carolina as a gay woman has to have some serious challenges, serious acceptance challenges, because there's some deep rooted shit in healthcare here. There is, there really is.
And this was a corporation that was leading to the public. They were leading the way to adjusting hormone levels
Mhm.
for trans people. Because when you do hormone levels for a trans man or anyone who's on hormone replacement therapy, the levels change than if you were cisgendered. So like they were leading this way of like, here are the new guidelines, and you know, it's no longer, we don't need male or female, we need to know if it's, you know, we have male, female, F to M, which is female to male, or M to F, which is male to female, so that we could properly gauge their hormone levels. So we have that aspect, like progressive, but then they're like internal, not being able to be completely out to everyone. Like not everyone knew that I was gay. So it's kind of like you see that, but then you experience
Like you
another,
said, half pepperoni, half cheese,
yeah,
right?
half pepperoni, half cheese.
Yeah.
Like, and then that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
You want to talk about performative? We did something similar to this after George Floyd. We did the Green Ribbon Movement,
Mm-hmm.
where downtown, I challenge any business that would welcome the African American, the black community into their downtown business. Put it on your window. A lot of people did it, a lot of people didn't, because they didn't want to be political.
Mm-hmm.
2 businesses within a week said, I don't see any black people coming in my business. I'm going to take it down. They ain't coming here. I was like, I know exactly where not to go.
Right.
And like, you know, this is the first time I've said
Jesus,
that.
man.
out
Yeah, I've
loud.
never heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
You know,
that's motivate. Like,
you know,
trust me, anybody who's truly performative and they start pedaling,
Yeah.
backpedaling like that, like
Yeah.
it doesn't take a long time.
Right.
Yeah, and it was just and then one business, it was Black Lives Matter to us. It wasn't Black Lives Matter movement, because at that point it was so
Josh, yeah.
It was so
Yeah.
divisive, and
Yeah.
it was like, okay, so like if you put this ribbon on, it means Black Lives Matter to us
Yeah.
in this establishment. You know, it's not the movement.
But again, that's another straw
As
man
soon as-
situation,
as
because
soon as they found it out,
yep.
ripping it down.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that. These are people that employed black. You know, I keep going to the black community because that's where I was
That's where you
born.
can relate- you can
I
relate,
to it.
yeah.
I was born right here in the middle of the East Side,
Right.
and this is where I was from as an implant. And not me, but
Your family.
My family. You know, my
Yeah.
mother was pregnant when she moved here.
Yep.
So I'm here with that mentality, and I see that, and like that's where I can really relate to anybody that's been pushed under the rug. And like you said, we look different. We look like we could just
Mm-hmm.
pass off. We're good. You
Yep.
know, we're good. We can, but we hear it all.
Mm-hmm.
We hear it all. We hear every bit of it
Every
all.
single bit of it.
And a lot of the times, like I said, this has been 2 years, and this is the first time I've said that. You know,
Mhm.
and it needs to be said.
It does.
I won't blast the business. I
Yeah.
blasted them.
Yeah.
I called them on the phone after they told me that. They said, I blasted them. What the fuck are you talking about?
Man.
You know, I won't never walk in there again
Yeah.
because of, you know, if you're basing it off your sales, we're humans.
Right.
You know, base it off the behavior of a human, and always do that.
Yeah.
That is Christ-like.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you want to base it off of that, it is.
Yeah.
We're humans, man. We fucking animals at the core.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
We get hungry, we get horny, we get happy,
Yep. We get sleep.
we get angry. Oh, that was a Grandma's Boy?
Yeah. Mhm.
No, Cat Williams.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we get angry, we get obsessive with things like this. We're humans.
Mhm.
You know, we have these things what people call flaws. We're fucking humans. You
Yeah.
know? You know, we piss, fart. Things that people
All
really
the things
don't, you know?
that humans do.
Yeah.
Yep. No, you're right.
But I mean, people don't, you know, they shun it off. Of course, we're not going to just fucking
Yeah.
let off some rips and shit in the floor. But
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? This
Maybe
is,
we should.
Maybe we should start sitting in floor.
Hold on.
Hear me out.
Maybe we should.
Hear me out.
What a lot of media and society teaches us, like when we're in front of a camera, when we're in front of an audience, that we dehumanize ourselves, right? So like
Yeah,
I've
okay.
worked the entire semester of like working with students who have public speaking anxiety, and you know, challenging them to say that even interpersonal communication is public speaking. The only thing that isn't public speaking is the things that happen in your head, unless you're saying them out loud.
right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we never know. I never know.
I never know either. I'm like, oh, did I say that out loud? I don't know. oh,
damn.
that was supposed to stay in there.
Whoops.
Yep.
But I constantly found myself, because people would be asking me like, oh, like what happens if you choke over your words in front of the audience, or what happens if you switch up the first letter of the sentence, like I'm looking at this, so you say like Salstone's emotions,
right.
and I'm like, well, what do you do during interpersonal interactions? I just laugh. What's stopping you from laughing in front of an audience?
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Like, what's stopping you? Like, what is stopping you from being a human in front of an audience?
Yeah.
Exactly. And not calling
Damn
it,
right, man.
like, not being like,
right.
oh, you've got dyslexia.
Yeah.
You need help.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, my son's also dealing with this now at 4 years old. Like, he's already looking at things like, today he was like 507. That's 705. Like,
I do that all the time, though. Like,
exactly. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But when we were growing up, it'd be like, motherfucker, you are going into this classroom and this. So we've already, there's so much that we have grown up to in the 80s and 90s that are similar to that
it
we could just
dehumanizes our experience.
Yeah, it does.
And
It's
so,
like,
and then we see all of these supermodels on TV, and we see all of these like perfect people in media, and so all of a sudden we are starting to dehumanize them, or dehumanize ourselves and say that's what human is, not this. Not this vessel. So now I have to act like them, even though we forget that they're acting.
Yeah.
They're playing a
And
character.
it's still
They're
a
not.
I'll tell you, become a musician. You'll learn the difference then, because I learned that. I'm like, man, these people really think I'm this really nice, happy guy sometimes, Like, it's all an act, man.
It's art.
Yeah.
It's hiding behind that.
But
Like,
why? But why? You know what I mean? Like, why are we motivated to be like,
You're right.
to create those perceptions about ourselves?
Because we have been dehumanized, like you said, or we have been misled and lied to of what a human should be.
That's a big part of it.
We've been like, hey, this is what you should be, and like, I swear to God, on my life, I ain't never met a person on this world. I've met millions of people in my existence, and I have never met a person that fits that persona of what I grew up saying you should be this way.
That's true.
Never in my life.
That's true.
I've been around a lot. I've got thousands of friends.
Yeah.
Let alone people I've met.
Right.
And they've never held up to that.
Yeah.
Never.
Well,
so this is what I'm trying. This is just a revelation for me myself, because I'm just looking at my son like he's in here. We're filming in here. He's throwing fucking slime everywhere. I'm like, motherfucker. Not really, but I want to. I'm like, stop. I'm like, we're filming. I'm fucking hitting, like slapping him, like get over there. And I'm like,
what the hell am I doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
What was I doing at 4 years old?
That's true.
I mean, it really, when he said 507, that really hit me, because like me and my wife was talking about it. He was talking about my cousin, and he was calling her Tin Chris. And her name is Kristen. Yeah, and like we're like, I was like, it's really hit backwards. And
It's okay. I was like that as a child.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I used to say, I can't even, like, I used to get remote control backwards. I used to get pregnant backwards. I used to get Chicago backwards. Like, I used to get my...
Well, and I think part of the whole diagnosis obsession, the diagnosis obsession, is because there's powers that be that want you to diagnose that kid so they can prescribe them the medication that they've been spending money on.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with medication. Like, as someone who has diagnosed ADHD.
I'm here with you with that. I'm here with that. The misdiagnosis.
It's the misdiagnosis. There's a lot of that.
I was misdiagnosed
and self-diagnosed
early. I was fucking depressed as hell about 2005-ish, and talked to the doctor about everything that I was in, and then all of a sudden here he says I've got rage and all this fucking issues. It was totally the opposite. I wanted to be recluse and not rageful. Yeah. So he gives me medication for rage. I'm sitting there for like 6-8 months, and I'm like, this is not it, bro. Like there's something going on. Yeah. And I just knew that was a misdiagnosis. But what are you going to do to this doctor? What are you going to tell? I want this instead. Yeah. Then you start figuring it out, and then somebody finally figures it out.
Yeah.
Oh, this was just nothing but a goddamn blood pressure issue.
Yeah.
Here's what you need.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like somebody finally figures it out, but misdiagnosis is the worst, and I've seen
It's a ton of it, man.
especially in the
And then
early
you
2000s.
you don't know any, like, as patients, you tend, as general patients, like, we've been in the medical community, so we know how to advocate for ourselves.
Right.
I'm not, like, did you know how to advocate for yourself? Did you know how to ask
Do you know how to
questions?
advocate for your family?
Except for just moving to another doctor.
Mhm.
At that point, that was it.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to do except
Because
for
why
this
should you
ain't
walk
working.
in? Why should you walk into a medical facility and think you know more than the doctor does?
Yeah.
And that's what everyone feels.
Yeah, but here's
Yeah.
the thing. We don't think about doctors like this, but we hire them.
Yeah.
They work for
Absolutely.
us, not the other
Absolutely.
way around.
I learned that.
But
Absolutely.
we,
Yeah.
as a culture, don't
Yeah.
think that.
Yeah.
I give you money so that you now
Absolutely.
you are going to bestow your knowledge upon
It's
me
service.
as a service. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you so much. When really, it's like you about to bill my insurance for way more than
Yeah.
this costs, so you work for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I didn't learn that until I had a son. So like I learned that and I was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we need to do.
Well, and also your nurses and other people in the medical field also need to be proper advocates for the patients.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that lacking as well. But they need to be proper advocates for the patient and not afraid to be advocates
yeah,
for the
because
patient.
they've been patients, and now they're the closest thing to the patient
Mhm.
as far as like an interpersonal relationship. So
Right.
it's their responsibility to kind of coach, like maybe
Yes.
if you are still having questions about
Mhm.
this. And a lot of that has to be modeled behavior, just kind of looping it all back into education.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really easy to say, do you have any questions about this?
It's a lot harder to answer that though.
It's so hard to what do you mean?
Yeah.
So like there's no modeling in the doctor's office. There's no modeling. Like, let's debrief. You just had your physical. We just found out that you had high blood pressure. Do you understand fully what this high blood pressure is going to do with your lifestyle? Do you understand fully how this medication may interact with your other medications? There's no modeling of the behavior of like, what questions should you consider after you've just had this diagnosis?
Right.
Here's one for you. Your mother's 97. She's demented.
My mom is demented,
Okay.
so
Okay.
we're good.
Do you understand fully?
I didn't mean to laugh.
You're fine.
I
No, that's fine.
was like, that
That's
was
fine.
a coincidence.
That's a good coincidence. My grandmother was. Do you understand fully what happens when we have to resuscitate her because you don't have a DNR on your mother? Do you understand fully what that's going to do to her and her body?
That's another. I mean, I understand, but that
I know.
but
I know.
that's great. Like being able to do you know what it means?
Right.
Do you know what's going to happen?
Right.
Do you know the potential impacts? And you have we have to get better in the healthcare industry to
Massively better,
to
yeah.
model the questions. You know, I think about being in the middle of a classroom that has just met me, because a lot of my teaching is new audiences every single day, which is why I'm so hyper focused on how do you get to know your audience in 10 seconds or less, so
Right.
you can inform your instruction.
Right.
So
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Efficiency.
I'm gonna do this again tomorrow.
so you get in front of the classroom and you ask them a question. You're assuming that they know how to answer it.
Or they have up to that point been welcome enough
Yeah.
to say, "Hey, this is what I feel like."
Yeah.
You are assuming they know how to student,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then, if I'm not getting any responses, rather than saying "Oh, this is a shitty classroom that I got today," I say, "Well, talking about public speaking anxiety, I have often heard about physical manifestations of some people's hands get sweaty."
Oh,
Some
yeah.
people start sweat, but I'm walking them through this.
Fingernails.
So I'm they'll start picking at their nails. There's sometimes they feel like they're cemented to the floor, and what I'm doing is modeling answers. As I'm modeling potential answers, there's always, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. There's going to be students that are going to be like, "Oh yeah, that happens to me.
Yeah.
this also happens to me. Is that weird?
Yeah.
No, I go through that.
Yeah.
So like you have to like model that behavior so that people know how to answer or ask questions.
Right. Well, I think that.
Changes count.
Yeah, you're
I
fine.
think we're about to have to cut out and say.
I know.
Like,
I know.
what time is
Yes,
it?
he's full. Yeah.
It is 11 o'clock at
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, it's
No,
almost-
I do want to say like it's such a great thing that someone like you is in a position that you're in, you know, to where you do get to speak to people, because again, so many people are motivated by the wrong things, you
Right.
know, and I can tell that unless you're a really good actress, unless you're really, you know, I can tell that you're coming from a place of compassion, which is very comforting,
Yeah.
you know, and healthcare. I mean, we could talk about it for years.
And I was everything from patient facing to like behind the scenes. Like, so.
Yeah, and the money behind healthcare will make you sick.
We were one of the only corporations to make profit during the pandemic.
Yep. Yep.
So like,
Yep. I mean,
but then we furloughed and fired people. Like,
Yep.
you know, you watch
Yep.
that stuff, and
Yep.
you're like, oh, I really did sell my soul
Mm-hmm.
to the corporate devil.
Yeah, healthcare will make you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I had I watched completely unresponsive feeding tube person be pushed in their bed into a therapy department for physical therapy, so they could bill the insurance for that. Like, that is some absolutely sickening
Yes.
behavior. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just money.
It's just money.
It's just money.
All right, we're going.
Yeah, we can wrap it up, man. I'm sorry for coming in out of the gate so
We're
hot the way I
learning.
did,
No, we're
but
learning. We're learning.
yeah.
Man. You were our 10th guest, so we've learned a lot in these 10
We
guests. and we
specifically wanted to schedule you as the 10th guest as well.
Oh,
Specifically the last one of this year.
Yeah.
cool.
It was intentional. We wanted to get into it, so when we start back up at the beginning of the year, we can have this kind of a mentality to where we're not really pitter-patter and trying to promote people. We're trying to make a community better
Mm-hmm.
and trying to get some things out
Yeah.
there.
So you are infiltrating
Yeah.
the other side
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
as well.
I've been on the streets. I've been doing it. I've marched. I've done all that kind of shit, and that's not working. I've got fatigue from it. I'm good at this stuff. I know how to do this stuff, and this is how I'm gonna try to do it for 2023.
You gotta leverage your strengths.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you
Yeah.
really like now more than ever, we don't just need bodies on the streets. Like we
Yeah.
need the minds and the
Mhm.
skill sets that are really going to like think of it as like a corporation of equality. Like we gotta beat them at their own
Yeah.
game, and enough of us have that experience now that if we collectively just leverage our strengths and build a corporation of equity, like.
Yeah, you're
Because
right.
we know how to beat them at their own. We know their game now, like, and we have the skill sets because they built it off of our backs.
Yeah. You're right, and this is a good step. Hopefully, you'll come back down to Asheboro again. We'll have that room open. We'll have Ren, you talk,
Yeah.
and then maybe we can just make a day out of it and or afternoon and evening out of it. Go show you some good places downtown that
Yeah,
I
I'd love
Yeah.
that. I
fucking-
love
yeah.
traveling. Like I
Yeah.
love going into small towns, and so there's I have two older guy friends who I consider to be my brothers. I get to go everywhere when they're in town. Like there is no
Yeah.
place off limits when
Yeah.
they're in town with
Yeah.
their privilege.
Yeah.
So we get to explore spaces that we don't normally get to explore because we have our token white guys with us.
Yeah.
That are getting us there.
This would be more of, I know these business owners would love for you to be in their business, and it wouldn't be performative. It would be just
Genuine.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple that I know off gate. The wine bar is definite, we could maybe hit that up, and then maybe go to Four Saints afterwards,
Mhm.
because Four Saints is good. So we'll set that up, because this is not the end of it.
And bringing gay, there's an old saying that when a gay couple moves into a neighborhood, the property value skyrockets.
The
But
economy sure goes up.
Yes. Yeah.
but there is truth
Yes.
to that.
Yeah.
We say it as like a kiki, like a
tongue-in-cheek
haha,
kind of
like
thing.
yeah. So everyone's property value just went up like 10% because we moved into the neighborhood. But there is truth to that
Yeah.
because we have the dual income, and a lot of us don't
Yeah.
have the kids, and a lot of us didn't have kids to
Yeah.
slow down our careers, and
I mean,
you know,
that's-
so
yeah.
you start getting us into these communities and investing in these communities can then thrive.
And for me, I want to thank you for including us early with Ruger in the shows, because that, for me, that was a huge changer for my outlook on certain communities.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't like definitive. That's exactly what it is, but it helped because I was teaching that first year. I think it was the first year we went was 16 or 17.
Let's see, I started in 14, so that must have been 15.
15. Okay. Well, it was the year. Okay, 15. Then it was 17. I was teaching, and just to see the impact that my students, high school students, had when I told them that to meet me there, it was like half of those teenagers were like, "Holy shit, I'm gonna be there."
That's awesome.
And that helped me, especially atone for certain things. I always bring this up because my freshman album was not full. There was too many things because hip hop was so homophobic growing up, and I always mention that my first album I was trying to apologize, but at the same time say the word faggot. That was 27 years old. I should have known better at that point. I don't have many regrets in my life, but I have those regrets from saying certain things on that first album, and just to turn things around and to see things, especially the hip hop community open up. That's a tough cookie, and to see to have hip hop at a Pride Festival is a big thing,
Yep.
and to have Tioga.
It's a big statement without it, a lot of people understanding its impact on two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing. You talk shit about somebody. That was the first thing you pulled out.
Yep.
You were pulling something out that was completely homophobic to somebody.
Well, it had a lot to do with toxic masculinity. What's the way I can demasculate you as much as possible?
Yeah.
And then people automatically pull that card out.
Oh, you might be interested. There's a podcast that the doctor who has dedicated his research to understanding toxic masculinity and its place in society, and that how toxic masculinity is all of our problems because we are all contributing to it, whether we realize it or not.
We have a list of things we want to dedicate whole podcast to.
Yeah,
that's
one of them. That is one.
That was one.
So if you want me to send you a few things that have some radical ideas,
yes, we do.
I am happy to.
There's a movie called Men that you need to watch.
I don't have the attention span.
You should.
I'll watch it in a
Even on
Look, you watch it. Give her the cliff
Yeah,
notes.
exactly.
Please do. You need to see it.
Even on my
Yeah,
Adderall, I do
is-
not have the
it
attention
is-
span for movies.
It is this okay. Well, I'm so fuck, man. You please
I got
watch
the,
it. The next time you come,
5
I'm gonna have the
minutes.
disc for you, so it'd be easy to get to watch, so you can give her the cliff notes.
Yeah.
But that is, I think it's the same actress that plays
Read the IMDb.
the whole
Yeah. Just read the summary. Get that little 5 minute worth of
Just
information they want
Give
to
me
give
the
you.
list of all the media that we need to
It's
reference during the
it's-
podcast.
It's like the cliff notes.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing. As me, I felt like, damn, we fucked up a lot.
Yeah.
How we gonna fit? How am I gonna teach my son to not be this
Bingo.
way?
Okay, bingo. I've asked this every podcast. I know we're wrapping up. I've asked it to everybody. You have no children, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to have a son.
Mhm.
What can I do to raise him in the Bible Belt to be an accepting young man?
Live each day authentically and encourage him to do that as well. Because they're going to be looking at everything that you do, you react to. And those are going to be the most impactful moments, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
It's watching dad or mom interact with someone who is different. How did they handle it? because I'm going to do the exact same thing when that happens.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll lean back on, like, homogenous communities do not thrive. So make sure that your son's being brought up in, you know, a diverse environment. And that, you know, there's a responsibility if he comes out looking white. He has a greater responsibility because he has now time that he will eventually need to fix. You know, like, he has to fix our mistakes.
Yeah.
As like, there will be a weight on his shoulders to fix that, you know, to fix the things that have happened in the past, and that's going to be on him. He doesn't have to learn that until later.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to learn that
Listen
until
here,
later.
while you're tying your shoes.
I know that you're learning.
Look, loop-de-loop.
The biggest
You are responsible for fixing all of our mistakes in society.
Take out the trash.
Loop-de-loop, you are privileged.
Yeah, I think what she was talking about when I brought out the Disney movies, another thing, like, just to not be like, oh, this person is gay, this person is a
Bingo.
black person.
That's
this person, you know.
I don't want
like,
them to even, like you said,
yeah.
when they see me interact with someone who's different. I don't want them to even see that person's different. That's because
And it's
they're
how we
going to be.
describe these people, even
But
from
they
the
are
single
different,
part.
and that's what makes them wonderful.
Yeah.
And we cannot become colorblind.
Look, I'm not saying colorblind.
Yeah.
I know,
I'm
but
saying
We shouldn't describe a person like you said for the Disney movies as this is the gay character.
Yes.
This is my black friend.
Right.
This is my Mexican friend.
Right.
Yes.
They are different, but we're going to figure out different ways they speak differently.
And
Yeah.
I was
They have
very
different
I had,
tones of
you
them.
know, my parents my parents did not have the same opinions. I learned as I was older.
Yeah.
Did not have the same opinions that they brought me up with. The same values. Like they were like diet racist, but like I grew up in a like
I love that term.
they were diet racist. So, but they brought me up in a very diverse environment. So diverse. Glenwood Avenue in Greensboro is where I grew up. So, so diverse that it got to a point where my mom was just like, "Don't trust strangers," because everyone in my community was different looking. So she was just like, "Don't trust strangers."
That's a
you know, like
valuable thing
if
to
you
learn
don't
anyway.
know them, don't try.
Yeah.
That's a valuable thing anyway. But I think the differences, like you said, the differences make us beautiful. But the differences that matter. Hey, tell me about your friend Joey. How is he different than you? Well, he likes soccer. I don't like soccer. You know, something like that. He's good in math. I'm good in science. Those types of differences. You know what I'm saying?
That's cultural differences, the way they speak. Is
the
very
way they
important.
speak. You know what their beliefs are and why it's okay for them to believe what they believe. You know, things like that is what and I know with Danielle I won't have a problem with that because she's the most inclusive person I've ever met.
Yeah. That's the good thing.
I
My
know.
wife's the same way. So like that's the beautiful thing. She's got, you know, we brought our son at 2 years old to I think it was 2019.
Yeah. Oh, and the one thing too about the Pride Festival is I felt so welcome there
Good.
as a white cis man. You know, performing on stage. Like I know that opportunity could have been given to someone who was not me, right? But I felt so welcome. And anytime I've gone to, I used to, you know, club in Charlotte frequently. I never felt out of place, never felt unwelcome. And I think that it's only fear would be the reason that someone would feel otherwise. And I truly believe that. So.
Yeah, we try to practice what collectively. I'm not going to say for all, right? There's some violent element.
There is, yeah.
But you know, like I do have to say I am very, very proud of my community and understanding the importance of allyship and that the importance of if we don't want to be othered, we can't other.
Yeah. When pride is such an inclusive, I don't want to say theory, but it really is, you know. It's very
it's
much be proud of who you are and be proud with us that you are this way, you know. And that's something that I think can really be appreciated, you know. So, I don't know. That's one thing I've always liked about, you know, about pride and things of that nature.
Yeah. I can't take credit for it, but
Yeah, I'm not giving you credit, but yeah, in general, you know.
I'm excited that you feel that way.
Yeah, of course.
Well, Thank you so much.
Are we wrapping this up? All the
Yeah.
cameras dead?
This one's rolling. This one's
Okay, all right, good.
Okay, I was like,
that
oh,
was on
we've
the-
lost all of the content.
No, we
Worst
still-
case, we got
we
audio.
still have audio.
Worst case, we got audio. Always on.
All of the content.
Yeah.
We're gonna blow
But
that out.
it's been a pleasure
Yeah,
speaking to you.
Thank you,
I've
yeah.
enjoyed it thoroughly. I wasn't really 100% sure what was going to come out of my mouth or what was going
We
to come out of
never
your
know,
mouth.
man.
Like
We never
we
know.
never know.
We
So
never know,
like,
yeah. We're good. We're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Don't forget your.
well,
Yeah.
thank
That's
you.
Kimberly made that.
Aw.
And we need a picture.
Yeah, we need a picture.
A picture.
Yep. Thank you so much.